just learning how to use some of my own equipment. Alright, what we're doing right now is setting up the show. Most radio show hosts don't show up. Either they have their own camera crew or they just don't get content the way I do. But we are getting content today. ThinkReactLead radio show, and feel free to watch the whole show on Facebook. Man, I'm about to go live right now. Good day, everybody. This is Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker. You're listening to the ThinkReactLead radio show, as we always do here on 960 The Patriot KKNT. You know, I'm assuming, and I'm really hoping that all of you are having a fantastic day, have had a fantastic week in this whole state of being quarantined. And, you know, there's some upsides to not being able to, I say, live or lead what would normally be an existence for you, right? And that upside is you really getting dialed into who you are and really understanding the people in your household, acknowledging some of the areas of growth, areas of opportunity. Today's show, the entire show, majority of the shows, we're going to talk about fear, acknowledging it, getting past it, just kind of dive into this. What exactly is fear? Fear is nothing more than a biological response to an internal or external stimulus, right? So if we break it down from a standpoint of just the biological response. So when you're afraid, your body goes into fight or flight. This is nothing new to anybody. But your heart rate goes up, and then what ends up happening is your adrenaline increases. Your brain starts to race, and then some of us sweat, right? Some of us have been to a space where we've operated in a space of fear for so long that we call that comfort. But it's actually a detriment to your creativity, to bridging the gap between your mind and your heart. And I want to talk about the internal or external stimulus. Fear can arise from within or without. So think about losing, say, your job. There's fear, right? That's stress. I was talking to an executive, and they had to let people go. And there's millions of people out there that this is happening to. This company got the stimulus package, and they were able to bring people back. The stimulus package had to be returned for whatever reason, and then those people had to be furloughed again. Like, not only does that cause fear, but that causes confusion. There's a phrase that I use often, and it's embrace the suck. Or when feces hit the oscillating rotor, that's when you know it's time to embrace the suck. That's when you know things get very real. But if you spend multiple days during a week operating outside of your comfort zone, when things hit the fan, your stress levels don't spike so high that you can't control them. So when you understand the true nature of fear, it becomes easier to overcome. And many people out there, many of you listeners, many of you that are watching, you have been in a space of fear for so long that you don't really know what true happiness is, or you're uncomfortable operating in that space. Talking to a guy the other day, and he was saying that he felt guilty just sitting down watching TV, but maybe that's his way of relaxing. Some people feel guilty relaxing. I used to feel the same way, and the reason for that was my objectives were great, but my reasons for trying to meet said objectives were wrong. I was chasing money as opposed to having the mission that I have now, which is change one life every day for the rest of my life. This is before the radio show, but I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing right now that's going to allow you to change mindset, which in turn is going to help you to change your overall biology. So let's talk some effective ways to deal with fear so that it does not take over your body. Working out. Every time we open the refrigerator, we would do 25 push-ups. Well, you know, the first 2 times, it doesn't seem that bad. But once you open the refrigerator 5 or 6 times, you're like, you know what? I am not going to do this anymore. If you're going to be stuck at home, like many of us are, play some exercise games. Top of every hour, I'll do 25 push-ups. That sounds silly, but do something along those lines, because what that does, it allows you to not think about the stresses, not think about the fears, not think about what's going to happen and the what ifs, but what it does is it allows you just to focus. I mean, heck, you don't do 25, do 10. Do jumping jacks, top of every hour. And then you end up setting yourself a base point. It's really going to help you build a routine throughout your day. So you know at the top of every hour, you got to take a break to do 10 jumping jacks or 25 push-ups. And that re-engages your mind. Number 2, do breathing exercises. I remember the first time that I had a panic attack. So mind you, prior military, ex-cop, I jumped out of my car. I'm running up on this porch. I'm about to kick in the door. I go to draw my weapon. As I'm kicking in the door, my body froze. It froze for less, it was probably a second. The last place you want your body to freeze is when you've jumped on a wooden porch, letting everybody in the house know that you're there and you're about to kick in the door. But the reason that happened, hindsight, I realized that it was the stress that I was under that I wasn't acknowledging. I was not eating right, but I ran a lot, so I stayed in shape, but I wasn't acknowledging the stress. So I learned to start doing breathing exercises. It actually helped. How crazy is that? Doing breathing exercises helped me relax the body. And then number 3, relaxing your muscles. Let's talk about progressive muscle relaxation. Like, what is that? It's nothing more than a technique for releasing muscles that have been tense due to anxiety. I didn't start doing this until I started in the motorcycle world. If you're not a racer, you don't say you're racing motorcycles, you say you're tracking motorcycles. So my wife and I take our motorcycles to the track and we track our motorcycles. You're so tense when you're riding, and I'm riding on the track, I forget to relax. Sometimes I forget to breathe. Some of you work that way. You sit at your desk, you're so tense, and then you wonder why you're yelling at your kids, you're yelling at your spouse. The energy that you're holding on to is needed to propel you in your business. It's needed to propel you in your relationships. It's needed to clear your brain, bridge the gap between your mind and your heart, like I said before. When you're so tense, none of that stuff opens up, and you miss opportunities when that happens. And then eating and sleeping right. We all know what to eat. We all know what time to go to bed. Turn your phones off at night, right? Set a time, turn your phone off, turn TV off. Reading a book helps. I read about 3, maybe 4 books a year. The first time I read it, the second time I read that book, I'm actually understanding the information I read. When you read a book, most people don't implement information they attained during the reading of said book, or even listening. So if you're reading a book back to back to back, when do you have time to implement what you're learning? I want you to consider the things that you're doing that aren't helping you move the needle forward in your business, in your life, in your physical, in your relationships, right? Just all the things that matter. And then we wonder why we're not happy. We wonder why we yell and we're arguing. You've never learned anything that's come out of your mouth. So we just talked about fears. And again, if you're just tuning in, you're just watching on Facebook, Instagram, listening in now, why are we talking about this? Because so many people are stuck at home in a mental and emotional space of being stuck. They don't realize it. They're wondering why they are chasing their tail. They're wondering why they're not able to break the ceiling in their business, in their relationships. Some of you are forced to be around people way more often than you really want to. Today, like in this moment right now, I'm supposed to be in the Bahamas. It's out of my head, obviously. I'm supposed to be on a cruise ship right now. I can't dwell on that. But my son, going back to my son, I have to homeschool. But having your children at home, and now I work from home. Most of you are working from home. But what's happening is with all of these changes, what we're not acknowledging is ourself. Unfortunately. And self has to come first so that you can benefit everybody else. Let's talk about identifying your fears. To identify your fears, ask yourself, I say, a series of questions. And I want you to write the answers down. What am I afraid of? I'm talking about some of you are afraid to have conversations with your spouse. More oftentimes than not, it's men that are afraid to have a conversation with their wife. I've not really come across too many wives that are uncomfortable telling it like it is. But for some reason, men struggle and they just rather avoid it. Why am I afraid of it? Third question, what do I try not to think about? And then fourth, when do I feel afraid? Some of you, you're fine and dandy when you're out with your friends. But the moment you realize that you have to go home, some anxiety or negative feelings start to kick in. You almost make an argument happen before you get home because you're trying to combat this negativity that you're creating yourself. And then I want you to ask yourself, what pictures do you have in your head about the situation? These are the little things. Oftentimes I talk about effective communication. Are you being effective in your communication, or are you just letting it que sera, sera? What will be, will be. That's a horrible way to lead life, live life. Nobody benefits from that. Once you can become aware of all the different ways your fear is affecting your life, ask yourself this, is it causing you constant emotional distress? And what is it keeping you from doing? Oftentimes it's keeping you from having fun. The other day I was skateboarding. So I woke up, sometimes I don't go to bed till real late. So I drove downtown Phoenix and I realized there's nobody out here. I'll grab my skateboards, I'll go out here and have a good time. And I'm about 40 minutes from downtown Phoenix, but I just felt the urge to go downtown and go skateboarding. So that's exactly what I did. But my skateboards never came out the trunk of my car. I ended up meeting a random photographer down there there. We started talking. He started educating me on cameras, and he took some cool pictures of my car. Things like that. Like, that would have never happened if I was afraid to tell my wife, hey, love, it's midnight, but I'm going to go skateboarding downtown. How many of you right now can't leave your house at midnight because you don't have the right relationship with your significant other? You should be able to leave your home whenever you want. But guess what? Because you messed up in the past, or you haven't set standards or non-negotiables in your relationship, you operate out of fear. And you operate out of fear because you're afraid to talk. I don't want you to leave this live video and go home and kick the door in and I pays the cost to be the boss around it. Like, do not want you to do. There's baby steps to this. You start setting standards through communication. So you ask them. We used to do in the corporate space what's called a start, stop, continue, right? So you ask your kids or your spouse, what do you want me to start doing? What do you want me to stop doing? And what do you want me to continue to do? Because if you don't have these conversations, you're going to continue to operate out of fear. And if you're saying, well, I'm always happy. How many times have you seen somebody argue or a couple argue in the airport as they're headed out for vacation? But you got to spend time with each other and spend time with yourself. And that's, if you don't do this, you're preventing yourself from enjoying the present moment, because everything is based out of fear. Why are we talking about fear? Because so many people have had so many shifts in their business, in their life, and they're stuck because their body is operating out of fear. Your body controls your mind, and your mind controls your body, because the gap between your mind and your heart is so vast. They don't even know what each other looks like. They're not connected the way they need to be. The goal of this show, like today's show specifically, is to get you out of the fear space, or give you insight to move into the space of creativity, of, I'm going to say happiness, but that's not really the word I want to use. I didn't know what happiness was until I saw a shrink, and the question she asked was, what is the thing that put a smile on your face as a child? And I had to think about that, and it was skateboarding. So to this day, I still skateboard. I got 4 skateboards in my garage. So let's talk about focusing on what you can control. How much time and energy do you spend worrying about things you cannot control? See, if you're like most people, probably a lot, and after all, a huge portion of life is out of our control. And this is perfect timing for this message, because many of the things going on are not in our control. So you can't control the actions and responses of others. Control local and global events, i.e. case in point today, traffic, weather, what others think, aging, people's opinions of you, the past, the inevitability of death. How many of you get mad when somebody cuts you off? When I was a police officer, this guy came flying by me. I'm in my car, and he was weaving in and out of traffic. So of course I hit the lights and I pulled him over. Of course I asked, sir, do you know how fast you were going? But I found out that he was rushing to the hospital because they were about to take his daughter off of life support. But I bring that up because if somebody cuts you off, you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know where they're headed. You don't know what their mental or emotional state is at the time. Now let's talk about what you can control. You can control how you respond, and you can control what you think about. In my experience, men operate out of emotions way more often than women. Men just fly off the handle, and I don't know why. And you wonder why you have so many stress problems, so many health problems. If you treat your spouse the way that you treat your boss, you'd have a better relationship at home. See, we don't snap on our bosses. Why? Because they're the gatekeeper to our paycheck, and we want to be perceived a certain way in the workspace. All right, this whole show we've been talking about fear. You can also control the way you treat others. You can control the information you consume. Last week's episode, we had Jason Cisneros on, and one of the things we talked about was, I brought up that I don't shop at Walmart. Like, there's a Target right across the street. But after shopping at Walmart for 20 plus years and visiting a Target on occasion, I noticed that there was a difference in the conversations that I was forced to hear. Not listen to, but hear. I've never seen in the news a Target get shot up. I have seen in the news a Walmart get shot up. Now, how consistent are you in acknowledging what it is that you can control? See, incredible change happens in your life when you decide to take control of what you do have power over, instead of craving control over what you don't. See, you're afraid that you'll lack, and we're talking about gratitude, and understanding that fear is almost always rooted in a scarcity mentality. In other words, you're afraid that you won't have something you want or desire. Have you acknowledged what you want or desire? See, you might be afraid that you'll lack love, respect, money, health, some possessions. We just got finished talking about that. Maybe some of you are worried about your medical condition. So let's talk about some simple ways to practice gratitude. And this includes, say, keeping a daily journal. They call it a gratitude journal. Send a weekly text message to a friend. Hopped on a phone call. And a couple other people contacted me this over the last 2 weeks, just reaching out. I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. I started doing it to other people. Embrace every challenge as an opportunity to grow. You should also post about positive things on social media. Like, I don't have negative things come through my feed. Why? I truly believe, one, I don't accept all friend requests. Two, I post positive stuff. Let's talk about practicing mindfulness. What does that do for you? And if we can tie in a little meditation, which I'm still working on, by the way, but understand that fear consistently takes you out of the present. So instead of focusing on the here and now, you are constantly worried about what could happen in the future. Why? Turn the news off, right? Control what you can control. What it is that you found out about yourself as you've been quarantined. Some of you call it stuck at home. What have you found out about your spouse? I found out 3 days ago that my wife wants to rollerblade. I don't know where that came from. She's never mentioned it before. But when you have time to spend with each other, guess what? You start to find things out about one another. You start to find things out about yourself. And understand that mindfulness is a way of life. Not that I've slowed down because my business is still moving. I know physically I've slowed down, because I'm not trying to run everywhere. I pulled up some apps that you can use as I talk about meditation. One is Headspace, the other one's Calm, and I think Aura, A-U-R-R-A. But if you are like me and maybe you struggle with actually sitting still, try some of those apps and just close your eyes, lay down. Here's something that I ask that you try. I want you to schedule your worry time. Yes, I say don't worry, but it's inevitable. People do worry. If you were to set aside, say 15 to 20 minutes a day, that during this time you wrote down what you're worrying about, not that you have to create solutions, you just need to get the worries out of your head onto paper. And then if you start to worry about something at any other point in the day, you just tell yourself that you will think about it during your worry time. And if you start scheduling your time of, let's just call it stress, worry, anxiety, whatever it is, instead of worrying about it for 3 hours, think about it for 15 minutes in a 1 to 2 hour period. And when you write them down, you will find out that majority of the things that you're worrying about, once you see them on paper, don't need to be worried about. That's why I want you to think, react, lead in everything you do. Think as an executive, react like a soldier, and lead, simply put, in all aspects of your life. But leadership starts at home. You don't start leading at work. You don't start leading in the bar, fellas. Like, you start at home. It's the hardest place to lead, but it's the best place to get respected from. Because once you nail that down and you got it licked, then you can go out into the world with utter confidence, superfluous confidence. Again, I'm Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker, your host of the Think, React, Lead radio show. And thank you very much for tuning in, listening, and watching. We are here on 960 The Patriot, KKNT. Until next time, I'll see you on the other side. Instagram world, thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you. Facebook world, thank you very much for tuning in. Craig Pittenridge, yes, turn the news off. Thank you, sir. There we go. We're there in live video. See you guys next time. We're not dying today. Don't come out to Arizona and visit between, I'd say, end of May, June, July, or August, because it is hot.